Again, your cell phones and what have you, please address. Oh, I think I just did something. Shoot. Oh, I gotta have that number again.
Yeah.
I did this last time. Oh, I gotta do share again?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still up?
Yeah.
Okay, apologize for that technical difficulty. It is 5 o'clock. We're going to start the meeting as soon as 2 additional board members arrive. So just please be patient. We'll kick this off here in just a couple minutes, hopefully. Good evening.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think with 3 members started, we'll have the chairman read the intro, and then we'll wait until our 4th member arrives to kick off the agenda.
That sounds great. Thank you. Okay, so this is the October 2nd, 2024 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design. Presents are Jeff Webb, Amanda Barton, myself, Joel Adrian. Present from the planning staff is Eric Schultz. These proceedings are being recorded. We ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We will conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, the matter is uncontested. The board reserves the right to ask questions of the staff, applicant, or others present prior to rendering a decision. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application. The open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, deny, or defer the application. Board of Zoning Appeals Site Design has the authority to do 3 things. 1, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. 2, grant special exceptions, fact-finding function of the board. And 3, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54.924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum are present and qualified to vote. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district not be harmed by the granting of the variance. So as we wait for our other board member, there is one item that was deferred. That was item B1, which is 18 Church Street. So if anybody's here for 18 Church Street, you have a short night because it's deferred.
Mr.
And-
Chair, we'll also have to defer A1 because the members present weren't there at that. The members present at the September 4th meeting aren't here. We need 4, so we'll just carry on.
All right. Just for the record, then Kelvin UG has entered the meeting, so we can begin. So then our first item would be item A2. Correct. Right. Did we ever get the meeting minutes from?
Nope, not yet, because again, we don't have the members present.
So item A2 is 706 West Harrison Road. The TMS number of 421-03-00011 is zoned SR1. Request a variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of one grand tree.
Okay, we're just making a short trip over the bridge to West Ashley Moreland section. This is the application submitted by Mr. Van Atkins on behalf of the owner, Joe Maxwell. This all began because we have a system in place that if a owner and or a tree service acting on the behalf of an owner is seeking approval to remove a grand tree, they submit an online tree removal request. And it just so happens that my colleague present tonight, Allison Craig, has this specific zip code. So Allison went out and inspected the tree and came back, and we had a chat, and she felt that it didn't meet the criteria to do a staff level approval. She didn't feel the tree was hazardous. So we asked that Van seek a variance. So here's the application. This is Van's letter speaking to the tree at 32-inch laurel oak. It's next to the front door sidewalk. We were denied. There was a large limb, and we'll discuss that fell out. But again, Alex and I don't feel it meets the criteria to classify the entire tree as hazardous. So that's that letter. Again, here's the site on the corner of West Harrison and St. Andrews Boulevard. So SR1, aerial view. You can see the tree is the front yard tree. This is a Google Street View shot. Typical laurel oak, canopy, maybe slightly off symmetrical, but we didn't ask for a survey to be submitted. It's basically in the front yard next to the front walking drive. Again, a little bit of Van's Mr. Atkins evaluation of the trunk. So here's the tree, here's the scenario. Trunk seems to be solid. Evidence of previous pruning cuts. So there was a break on this lateral, if you will. You can see some mushrooms in the base. Again, we talk about all the time just hazard pruning. So staff thinks or believes that maybe we could just simply remove that stub. That approximate final pruning cut would be there. Again, different angles of the tree. So we recommend just deny, prune, and monitor.
All right, Eric, thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, sir.
And would you like to address the board?
Well, the problem with this tree
You
is,
could state your name for the record.
I'm Van Atkins with Van's Tree Service, representing Mr. Harrison, or not Mr. Harrison, But representing the homeowner for this tree at Harrison Drive. And he, in June, he was living there in the house at the time. He came out of the house on the sidewalk and limb, as Eric noted, busted off and come down, missed him about 2 feet. And it was probably 4 inch in diameter, 5, 6 foot long. And he's now wanting to rent out the house, but he's afraid to rent it and have tenants coming out of there because it's right at the corner of their sidewalk. And a liability to the tenants, so that's his big thing. As you can see, it's got a lot of surface roots exposed. It's busting up the sidewalk, and there's still, we can prune it, but the trouble is, it's an old water oak, and it's got cavities in it, it's got bores in it, typical old water oak, and it's just. He is, well, he's had the house vacant now for 3 months and he just hasn't put a ringer in there because of the potential hazard of the tree. And so that's the reason he wants the tree out, is for safety of the tenants to come out of there. And I would say the tree's more than likely hollow, which probably 70% of the old water oaks and laurel oaks are. And like I say, it's got sap ooze coming out of it from where bores are in it. And so the tree's not in real good condition. It ain't in terrible condition, but you can see where the numerous limbs have busted off on the past. That's the reason well, he's just adamant that he wants the tree removed.
All right,
Is
is that it? Questions?
is there any damage to the structure to the house because of the roots?
There has been no structural damage to the house. The sidewalk is getting all busted up, but not the foundation itself.
Could you determine why you mentioned that a branch fell a few months ago? What was the result of, what caused that, if you're able to tell us?
What causes the roots to,
No, the branch, you said
Oh,
the
the-
branch fell.
just, they get cavities in them, you get a little bit of wind, you get some rain, they get heavy and they bust off.
And you're, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
They just, I see it all the time. Trees look perfectly healthy. It's as green as they can be, and they're laying on the ground because the roots are rotten. And they have just enough surface roots taking nutrients up to it through the cavity system, but there's so much of the root system that is rotten that they lay on the ground. Even the tree looks great. I mean, we see that quite often. Anytime there's a slight wind, get some rain, ground soft, down they go. But I'm not saying that this is imminent on this tree here, but I'm saying that there's that possibility. But what I'm saying is he's really concerned about trees falling, limbs falling and breaking up, killing a tenant, and he'd be liable.
In your opinion, as the tree expert, what do you think is the likelihood of the tree or limb falling?
If it's not pruned up a whole lot, it'd be great. There's several limbs that's got small cavities in them that the possibility of falling is potentially good.
So you think, you said if they're not pruned a lot. So
Right, and that's the trouble. Well, according to ISA standards, you can only take off 25% of the canopy. And this tree here would probably take 35% of the canopy off to take off all the limbs that are potentially bad, especially ones going towards the house.
thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant, or is there anybody present that's opposed to this application? Anybody else present that would like to speak in favor of it? Okay, we'll close the public portion for now and we'll have discussion. Thank you, sir.
Eric, do you know who pruned the tree before?
I do not. And they're old, either naturally you know, trees can naturally shed branches, but they look like that, they're pruning cuts. And they were textbook because they healed over nicely.
Well, I'm curious if it were pruned because of the wires. So maybe
Yeah. I don't-
DOT or SC.
but,
You would think that the ones facing the wires, that would be the case.
Right.
Well, I mean, I would have to say that when you look at some of those, like on the left there. You see the weep in the darkness. And is that the branch that the limb you're talking about taking off?
So on the right, you can see the little bit of yellow above that little dark dot. That was the branch. And there's where it broke. See a small little, and then you can see some fruiting bodies on the
Yeah.
lower portion of that branch. But again, we, you know, obviously the definition that we go by is a tree has to have target and then structural defects. Obviously, there's in the industry, structural or hazard pruning that can occur. So we were thinking just take that branch back to the trunk and then monitor the tree and revisit maybe in the future, but
To agree with that, I think that. So if you're allowed to take 25% of the canopy that's per year. So you take what you need and then 25% the next year, clean up the rest.
I guess one question would be, is that cracking just superficial that's on the, right here? Or is that more? I mean, I don't have a problem with taking the limb off. You know, we all know what happens with, was it a laurel or a?
Laurel,
Yeah. I mean,
it's gonna be a sizable wound. I defer to Van on his idea how soon that would heal over or.
I would say just if
that's
city's
restricted root
recommendation
area.
is to prune and monitor, I think that's a good way to go personally, prune or monitor.
Yeah, it's hard to see what the roots look like, just the dappled, mold there.
Did y'all discuss this last month? Just to confirm.
I guess for-
I think it was, yeah,
What would be guess this is a mature tree, but did he give an estimate on what its lifespan is?
Lifespan on this tree, Van?
Well, most laurels, their lifespan expectancy is up to 60 years. Water oaks 50 years. That tree's probably 40 years old.
person.
I'd be inclined. to Tree there.
Everybody have a motion.
Y'all make a motion. Make a motion to, for the tree to be cut down.
All right. Is there any question or discussion that needs to happen? Or is there a second?
So would you, you're making a motion to approve the removal of the tree with the standard mitigation?
I'm sorry, standard mitigation, yes.
Okay. So that's a category 2 tree, so 3/4 of the DBH inches, so 3/4 of 32. We would ask for a landscape plan. It's going to be maybe one tree in the front yard, the backyard, you know, does have a little space, plant maybe 2 trees. So maybe 3 trees of the required inches and then the remainder in a contribution to the city street tree program.
I'm fine with that.
Eric, I don't know if is there a requirement to grind to grind the stump down so that you could place a street tree there, or is that not, that's not typical, right?
I'm sure the owner is gonna wanna grind the stump, but you could plant a tree
Maybe
Behind-
next to it or
Yeah.
on.
behind it. Yeah, not in the same
It's
location.
within, it's within the property, yeah.
I'll second Kelvin's motion with the recommended mitigation.
Go to vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. In favor.
I am.
I'm in favor.
All those opposed? Aye. So it's approved 3-1. You remove your tree.
Who made the motion?
Calvin made a motion, Jeff seconded.
Got it.
I was opposed.
Okay.
So it's approved.
All right, very good. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I'll follow up with you.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So then our next item will be item A3, which is 3309 Maybank Highway. TMS number is 279-00-00196. Is zone GO. Requested variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 2 grand trees. Request a special exception from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 1 grand tree. Eric.
I am pleased to announce that we'll modify this request to strike the variance to remove 2 grand trees. The applicant worked with staff, so we're just addressing a special exception to remove 1 grand tree. So 3309 Maybank Highway is approximately very close to the intersection with St. John's Woods. Here's the application. On behalf of Sitecast is the applicant. It's a property that came into the city and was zoned GO. The corner at St. John's Woods Parkway and Maybank was recently developed into a little neighborhood shopping area. The owner of that, I believe, owns this vacant lot. There used to be a house structure on it. So the access to the lot will be through the county project, as you can see, with that main entrance aligning across from Skylark, I believe it is, Drive, or actually, I don't remember the name. Anyway, here's our lot. You can see the old driveway apron there, and driveway went in, and then there was a structure in that opening. Wonderful red oak out front, nice southern magnolia out front, and then these are the plans, St. John Square 2. And the original plan had the daycare basically sitting on just plan north of all 3 trees, the daycare facility. After meeting with the applicant, we decided to shift that back to kind of play off the front facade of the existing phase 1 building. Obviously, the playground area will be to the rear of the building. And then the city is working with the county to ensure that we have cross-access easements. So they provided a new curb cut off of St. John's Parkwood that would allow folks to traverse through this project, and then they'll make a little turn. And then the parking so happens that it will miss the building plan north, so we can get a access easement parallel to Maybank Highway. So that it all kind of worked out. So the water oak is in jeopardy here, obviously with red X over it. This is just a close-up of the new site plan. Again, using and utilizing the county property to access. List of the trees on the property. Arborist notes. You can see what the whole corner looked like prior to the county approval and development occurring. So here's the water oak is in the foreground, the live oak, and then another red oak, the 3rd tree down. Basically, they were hanging out on the common property line between the properties before the development occurred. Here's the red oak. There's the 26 live oak, and then the 26-inch water oak. So I'll reference this in my conditions. We have to eliminate those 2 parking spaces. Hopefully they can make those up on the county side of the line. And we have our walk that's required, our parking that will be, have cross-access easement on it to traverse Plan North. So staff recommends approval with the condition. Again, this is a fact-finding function of the board. Plant 13 caliber inches, that's 50% of the water oak native canopy trees on the project site. Must use 4-foot chain link fences, tree protection barricades. Must have a certified arborist prune and treat the brand. Protect the trees to be preserved. Must eliminate the parking spaces shown within the TBZ of the grand trees to be preserved and relocate the spaces. And must provide a landscape plan for TRC and DRB staff review and approval.
Thank you, Eric. I'll start with anybody present that's against or opposed this application? Is the applicant present?
Uh-oh. No, Sidecast is not here. Nobody would Sidecast? Okay,
You want me to, just put this on the back burner and see if they show up late,
we could.
and we'll move on to, new applications.
Okay.
We'll do that. That's all right.
Okay,
See if they show up. We'll go to item B2. B1 was deferred, excuse me, B2. B2 is Sportsman Island Drive, Cane Hoy, the TMS number 271-00-02066, Zone GB. Request a variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 3 grand trees. Request a variance from section 54-330 to allow a reduced impervious construction setback from the base of 1 grand tree. And request a special exception from section 54-13 to allow a reduction of the OCRM critical line buffer.
okay, making a trip out to the Cane Hoy Peninsula. This is the application, Cullum Engineering being the applicant. Actually 2 applications because he split the trees and also the OCRM critical line buffer. This site is on Sportsman's Island Drive, which that's actually a private access easement. If you all know the intersection of Clements Ferry Road and I-526, there's a entry to a boat dealership, a church, a couple other boat repair shops there that are front on I-526. So this lot is 3 address points. It's basically 1 lot of record, and it's on the east side of the critical area. So it's that treed area plus the critical area makes up that lot. You can see there's a boat repair and the boat dealership is out front. So it kind of makes sense to have a boat RV storage facility. It, based on the zoning of GB, it needed to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals zoning to seek approval for that use, which it received. Here's basically a shot off of Sportsman Island Drive into wooded area. It does drop off. The Sportsman's Island Drive is obviously built up with the bridge. This is the letter here addressing the OCRM critical line buffer. And I'm pretty sure I sent that document to y'all. It's quite lengthy. So here's the plan. 2 points of ingress egress. Again, it's a private access easement, so not a big deal from a city perspective on access. Obviously, vehicles would flow in a U-shaped flow and then back into some parking spaces and then also angled parking spaces. Here's the wooded site, primarily pine, but you have a cluster of live oak circled there. Pretty decent live oak in the front, just as where the slope off the access drive meets existing grade, and then a multi-stem, couple multi-stems. This is the drainage plan. They will have to build this site up, so there are incorporating retaining walls. And then here's the pollutant loading comparison study, which we forwarded on to our stormwater management folks. That I'm not an engineer, I can't read the study, but they understand it. Of course, it has to meet stormwater and water quality issues. And again, this is a special exception, so it's a fact-finding function. They have to demonstrate that their design would not impact the receiving water body any more than if the full buffer had been adhered to. This is the tree letter. So here's the plan with the trees. And one is at 21.5, so we're really dealing with 2 grand trees and impacting 1. So here's a picture of the 21.5 that they graded to C, but it's not a grand. Then you have the 8.5, 19.5, live oak grade B. And then at 816, C grade, and then the multi-stem live oak, a grade B, that would be the large one, be impacted slightly by the retaining and fill. So we sent that document down to the stormwater management, and under their incredible workload, they were able to have dialogue with the applicant back and forth. And we received this email today at 1:55. So just concentrate on Eric. Based on this, we are acceptable to the proposed buffer exception on the condition. The final C-SWIP includes appropriate pollutant loading analysis based on the final site design meeting or exceeding the loading for the scenario where the full buffer width is maintained. So with that, staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 52 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site, must use 4-foot chain link fence and street protection barricades, must ensure positive drainage from the center tree near the street, multiple drain tiles under the fill, must have a certified arborist prune and treat the grand and protect the trees to be preserved, must provide a landscape plan for TRC staff review and approval, and must meet the conditions stated in the stormwater email.
Excellent, thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that is opposed to this application? Is the applicant present?
Thomas Kelvin with Kelvin Engineering. Be happy to answer any questions. I think Eric did a good job of presenting the project. It's a low-lying site, about elevation 4.5 to 5.5. With the projected sea level rise, new city standards, looking at about 2 feet of fill across the site. That's created some issues, and the location of the grand trees have presented some design issues. So we believe they do need to be removed. We'll work with staff to adjust the plan as best we can to minimize impacts and minimize removals. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We will close the application. Is there anybody else present that wants to speak in favor of it first? We'll close it to the public and be open to the board to discussion and ask questions.
So again, just to remind you, the variance is down to 2 grand trees, one being 21.5 inches, reduction of the setback around the base of grand trees, and the reduction in the ozone critical area. Yes.
The trees are in the parking area, correct?
Yes. So the yellow one, plan north, if you will, the yellow one is the 21.5 grade C. And then the blue one is center in the parking lot, and that's where the angled parking spaces are. And then you can see the second one requiring a variance is a grade C, and it's inside the fenced area, but would be impacted by fill and available parking.
So do we need to make a determination on the less than grand? Is it
No, that's a protected tree, and they have plenty
they got it
on site. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's cool.
Is there a requirement for the number of parking spaces for this particular use?
Is there
A requirement for the number of parking spaces for this particular use?
no.
And since we're not looking at a grading plan. And you're saying it has to be raised 2 feet, how do we know how many protected trees are remaining?
Well, you have everything in the area that's outside the fence. and we only take the high ground area. So if he gets into trouble with that, he's gonna have to lose a few spaces because he didn't ask for that variance.
That southern strip is on the parcel.
That southern strip is not, that's a unclaimed, unimproved right away.
So when you're saying.
Or did that get abandoned, Thomas? I'm sorry.
It did not.
They were pursuing abandonment because it's unimproved, but that did not go through.
So when the fence is that kind of what jogs around those spaces between there and the critical line. So you're counting the upland trees. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect example of what we shouldn't be developing.
Well, I agree not to put a structure there, but
I agree. You should not put a structure there.
we'll have to haul the boats out if we get the big wind or big flood.
In the back
And
of that you sent out, was there something special underneath the parking spaces? Was that a different project I was thinking of? A system or something that was underneath. the parking
Who can
spaces,
explain
drainage or
the drainage plan?
something?
So it's cut there, the perimeter parking is gonna be canopy covered. In this case, what we're doing, for the critical line buffer variance request, we're gonna have a water quality structure. There's no impairments downstream, so there's nothing no pollutants of concern, I guess. But we are vastly improving, that stormwater discharge that will be discharged to the critical area. And kind of to touch on the fill again, I should have elaborated a little more. The live oak that we're trying to remove, if we were to attempt to save it within that parking area, it would be within a tree well, which we know tends to not
Go well.
Yeah. And we will follow the LID manual. We'll meet all MS4 requirements. The dry pond here on the bottom right of the plan, that was through discussion with stormwater. We may end up adding another dry pond kind of bottom left that the water quality structure will discharge into. We talked through some of this with McKinsey today. So we will meet all of those expectations and requirements as we go through TRC.
I see the three tree wells, those heavy lines on there. That upper one, is that able to drain towards the road? How does that work?
Well, that's why I made the condition to ensure positive drainage, and that
Oh, gosh.
tree near the center is going to require multiple drain tiles under the fill.
There is a slight slope towards the road. The center of that ditch will be, between those two culverts there, but certainly have no issue adding some drain tiles through there.
And this is repair and storage, is that what the use is?
Not repair, this is only
Storage.
storage. Yeah. No work, there's no water sewer here. It'll strictly be a storage facility. No anticipated, other than what may naturally occur, but
I think that happens to the right here. That's the repair shop, or boat yard, whatever you want to call it.
Any other questions?
Just this green space out front. We have a TRC project in for that. That's going to be in another new boat dealer facility. It's going to be boat oriented beyond the bridge here, basically.
if I may add one more thing, they're likely going to work hand in hand. So these will be new boats that are stored here. It's not going to be used or in disrepair.
Okay. All right. There's no other discussion, is there? Motion for the application.
With the was the encroachment into the setback, Eric, was that on the tree we were talking about in the middle, or is that the one to the left?
The
top
one with
left?
the crosshatch
Okay,
where the protection zone goes into a slight or I guess that's a covered parking space and then just the driveway circulation touches it a little bit.
so is the impervious the outside of the blue circle, or is it that red zone?
Outside the blue circle.
Okay, so a little bit of the wall and a little bit of that parking space.
That's right.
Though in fact, the amount of spaces that we're looking at are just a
A little
number,
arbitrary.
it's arbitrary. Whereas in fact, you could not have that parking space right there. You could shorten that whole bay.
That's true.
Yes. No,
You'd still need that, probably the driveway wall on that side.
on
Yes,
the,
you
on
could,
the
but
one
you could
side,
cut
just
just one
it wouldn't
side.
be in the roots as much. On the other side. You're gonna have,
It almost looks like you could, since you're taking out that one, that could shift down.
what could shift down?
The whole road.
Yes, yeah, you wouldn't have to lose a space, you could just.
What, Tom, is that feasible?
We'd have to study it. They're anticipating 40 or 45 foot. So it's in this area, so it is difficult to back it in there. That's why we kind of left some breathing room there where that vehicle could maneuver. We can certainly, do as best we can to shift down and can work with Eric, during the TRC process to minimize that impact there.
Well, my feeling is either either you remove that space. I mean, it's not like a required amount of parking spaces, it's a luxury item. It's not anything for the public good. There's just a whole litany of things that you could say about it now. Doesn't have that much value except to a few. Anyway,
So that's the tree right there.
Right hand side.
Right hand side.
well, considering you're taking up this huge amount of green space, I say, losing a boat space is not a big deal. And I think we'd want to save a B tree more than a C tree. And it is a live oak. So I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve with the stipulation that the first parking bay below, do we have a number on this tree?
Yes, that's tree number 4.
Okay, below tree number 4 to be left as open space with the wall brought out to the edge,
Yep.
right? Bring the wall out to the edge of the first, the next parking space for the retaining wall, leaving more of the original root space for tree number 4 and the rest to conform to staff recommendations previously stipulated.
All right. It's a good motion. Is there a second to Amanda's motion?
Are you looking at
Well,
how
I
much
would, no, I was considering, would you consider amending it instead of saying to the next space, just that the wall on that side needs to be beyond?
be
the
beyond
zone-
that,
zone?
that's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to redo the motion?
No, you could just make that amendment that
Okay.
staff conditions plus the first space is eliminated, retaining wall is outside of the tree protection zone.
Yes,
Retaining, yeah,
Yes,
retaining
yes.
wall is beyond the. yes, so,
Okay.
Whatever that's called.
yep, the TPZ.
I second it.
All right. Okay, so motion is for approval, staff conditions plus the one that Amanda's placed on it, Go to vote. All in favor, say aye in favor.
I
I in favor.
Aye in favor. Those opposed? This motion is approved 3-1.
3-1, who voted nay?
Cal-
Calvin. And who made the second? I'm sorry,
Jeff.
Jeff. 3-1.
Thank you. Our next item is gonna be item B3, and that's 1888 Clements Ferry Road, the Canewood area, TMS number 268000092 is zoned LI. Request a variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 2 grand trees. Request a special exception, section 54-327 to allow the removal of 1 grand tree. And request a variance from section 54. This is correct. It says 3347, or is that just supposed to be 347?
54, 347.
347 to allow the reduction of required landscape buffer width.
So for some of you, this may be familiar. It's back because some gears have been shifted, different engineer on the project now. So this is the application for 1888 Clements Ferry Road. HLA submitted for the buffer encroachment and the grand tree removals. 2 requiring a variance, 1 special exception. So we're zoned LI, and this property is off. It does not have frontage specifically on Clements Ferry Road. There's like a little access easement that you take, and then a dirt road leads back to a facility that is a transload facility. They take grains from somewhere in the southeast, load them onto containers to be shipped overseas. Existing building, as you can see, surrounded by a large wetland system. A number of years ago, the city approved a truck scale, so that's that white linear line in front of the building. And then they stack the trucks as they're loaded on that access road, if you will. You can see containers dotted along there on an angle, and the vendor that hauls them to the port picks them up. So this is the plan, which is a little different, which I have embedded into the exhibit. Existing structure, that's where the trucks wrap around. They wrap around that big, large grand tree in front of the building, go up on the scale, then they go to the back and they back into this building. Well, they need additional space, so they're proposing to almost mirror the building with the loading dock to the back. And then, unlike the previous engineer, they're showing a larger stormwater facility that would encroach into the 50-foot buffer against property zoned in the Berkeley County as R2. This exhibit shows the massive wetland system, and I'll come back to that, but I just wanted to show you how there is limited high ground. So this is a blow up of the 30-inch live oak, the 28-inch live oak, and the 25-inch water oak, and their proposed stormwater management system and their possible laydown yards, and again, the way the scale works, and some parking. So they're asking for the buffer to be reduced. You see the dashed line there, and the property line, the heavy line. Even though it's adjacent to wetlands, you know, we've seen over time, a lot of things can happen with wetlands, right? They can dry up and change over time, what have you. So here is the letter that was submitted back in 2022 by the consulting arborist, which carried with the land. So they got it into their possession. I'll just kind of flip through this quickly. Here's the approval from September 22. So the 3 trees were in the center. You see they were planting like a little cul-de-sac, and then not really having requested any buffer reduction, the city could assume, or through the TRC process, that the 50-foot buffer was being adhered to with that design. But I just wanted to show you what you previously approved. So here's the photos of the trees. The water oak. So keep this in mind, possible laydown area. There's a pond planned kind of south west. There's the large linear pond northeast, if you will. I feel there's no hardship. You know, that's just a arbitrarily drawn in buffer line, but there's possible other open area to do a small pond if necessary. I get it with the trees, it's unfortunate, but with the truck maneuverability and the size of the building they're proposing, I don't think we could save those, even with the building shifted a little plan south, but. So staff recommends approval for the trees. It's the same that was in 2022. 67 caliber inches, 10 3-inch trees on site, and then make a contribution for in the form of 15 trees in the sum of 4,425. Must submit a landscape plan for staff approval. Must plant or must use 4-foot chain link fence to protect any protected tree within 25 feet of construction. And then for the buffer request, denial.
All right, thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that is opposed to this application? And is the applicant present?
I'm Amy Chica with HOA. Eric summed it all up. You know, when we applied for the variance, we were hopeful to be just extend the variance. I think it was good for another, or extend it for another year. But because of the site plan changes with the truck routing of them wanting to be able to have truck access into the building, we had to shift the building over, which then brought on a site plan change, which didn't allow us to extend the variance. So we are just asking for the same variance that was approved 2 years ago. And then to talk a little bit more about the buffer encroachment. So the property next door is zoned R2, as Eric stated. And this map, you know, and even I think in the aerial that you showed, it's very heavily wooded, surrounded by wetlands. And so, you know, it's zoned R2. There is not an R2 use on the property. So with the stormwater requirements that are having to be met on this site, there are no downstream easements. And so all of the stormwater is going to be, I guess, increased on the site, and then trying to improve infiltration. I mean, everything is basically going to have to enlarge the stormwater. And so, you know, this time we were looking to figure out if there was a way with all of the wetlands around it that we could possibly encroach a little bit into the buffer that is running the whole length of the property. And so, you know, everything else is remaining. So we didn't really feel that we were necessarily, you know, creating a disturbance to any of the neighbors. It's again to hopefully provide some more, you know, LID or green infrastructure, which again takes up more room than a typical maybe stormwater pond. So there's, I guess, other requests. And so I don't know if, since, you know, Eric is not supporting both variances, I don't know if there's a way to separate them in your vote with the trees versus the buffer, but you know, we feel like this encroachment is relatively a small encroachment compared to what's going on next door. There's no neighbors to start. So if there's any questions that I can answer, please let me know.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else present that wants to speak in favor? We'll close the application to the public for questions or discussion. So Eric, help me out here. We go back to that area, like there's nothing out there.
There's nothing out there, but
And what you're saying is there will be nothing out there?
you just don't know.
You just don't know.
Okay, so I thought I saw something that said undevelopable.
I think that was maybe a conjecture or.
Yeah, use
I don't
undevelopable
think
wetland.
anything ever called it undeveloped.
I would say that. it meets the hardship test.
Well, I think that, the trees that we already approved 2 years ago, they would have been able to apply to extend that. So I think that's fair
Yes.
to allow that. And I guess it's a question of, Amy hasn't gotten that far with design on looking at how to deal with, that drainage or what other methods you could be doing with that. So I guess, if we were gonna approve the buffer, she would be having to work with staff anyway on that. Which we could stipulate. So basically what you're saying is you have to keep all of your drainage on site
Right, and
here.
I know it's in the same application, but she could have the opportunity, they could have the opportunity to withdraw that request, or we can defer it, right? I don't know what.
We could separate it out.
Yeah. we
I
would
personally-
have to defer it.
But we could still vote on the 3 trees.
Right.
And we could
Not
separate
deny
the
it.
issues and then you could come back.
That's fine.
Would that have to come back to us or would that?
If they want to put the,
that would
I
have to
just,
come back to us.
I can't give staff level
Yeah,
approval for a
Right,
stormwater facility and require a buffer. I still don't see a hardship when they have 8,000 square foot over my little blue bubble as possible sheet flow off that loading area. But that's for you all to decide. So they say possible lay down yard approximately 8,000.
Oh, so you
square
put that there.
Yes, you put the-
No, that's their rating, and then I
So it's
created
like-
my little exhibit and said, I see an area for stormwater right there.
That's fair.
but the other question was that septic location big enough? That could grow too.
I have no idea. I don't
That-
know. It says possible septic. I don't know what the building is on now.
So
I think
then-
it has to be 75 feet away. from drainage. So. The pond, you're suggesting that it's small, that be 75 feet away from the septic system.
That's it then, defer then.
So the office is
That
in
one
the
we vote on
existing
that too.
building. Will this new building have an office requiring new sanitary?
Yes.
So, my vote would be defer the buffer one, but, do an approval on
To-
the special
to approve.
exception and the other variance.
Well,
So make a motion to split it.
Right, and we'll vote on that.
make a motion to split this into 2 different, requests.
Request one will be,
I'm sorry, request 1 will be, removal of 3, I'm sorry, look at the wrong one. Removal of the 2 grand trees and the special exception removal of 1 grand tree. And, request 2 will be the variance for the buffer reduction.
excellent. Is there a second to that motion? Right, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye in favor. Opposed, that's approved 4-0. So now. Is there a motion for request?
I make a motion, we approve request 1.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of that motion?
I in favor.
Any opposed? That is approved 4-0. And then request 2, the
Who made the,
reduction.
I'm
Amanda.
sorry, Amanda,
Seconded by Jeff. 4-0.
and I have to go, okay, the split was Jeff Kelvin.
Yes.
Request 1, 4-0, Amanda, Jeff, and then
Yes, now we're gonna go to request 2 or motion 2, which would be
Make a motion to defer the buffer request.
all right. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye in favor. Opposed? None. That was approved 4-0. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
okay.
All right. So I don't know how to throw this out. All right, so our next item will be item B4. That is 1427 Ashley River Road, West Ashley, TMS number 41801000226, zoned LB. Request a variance from section 54.327 to allow the removal of 4 protected trees. Request a variance from section 54.330 to allow reduced impervious construction setback near the bases of 5 protected grand trees. Request a variance from section 54.347 to allow reduced reduction of the required landscape buffer widths. Eric.
Okay, 1427 Ashley River Road. Amanda, how long have you been on the board? I think this is
Rotate off person.
this
on
is
the board.
attempt number 5 to develop this site. And
Joel and I started at the same time.
early, I have a file, I think it was 1999. We visited this site for an
I
office.
was
But
looking at TRC back then.
here's the application, S Art Studio. Mr. John Sullivan is the architect working with a owner, Low Country Oyster Company, wants to build their oyster retail shop here and shipping retail facility. So it's long and narrow, zoned LB forever in the city, surrounded by 2 apartment complexes, zone DR, hence the requirement for a 25-foot landscape buffer on either side adjacent to those properties. You can see here how there is an existing curb cut, which the state DOT says if you don't mess with it, you can use it at that light, because immediately adjacent to that is the ingress egress to the apartments. Here you see that. So over the years, people have bush hogged this site and kept the saplings and small trees from taking over the entire site. So you have the trees stacked up on the common property line. Some are off the actual property line, according to the survey, but you have on the east side trees. This is the site looking down the long linear property. Here's the survey full sheet by SWA. I turned it just so I could fit it on the sheet and get it. So there are some large trees immediately adjacent to the asphalt for the apartments, and you can see that line there in their dog park, and then trees on the common property line adjacent to the other apartment, but a few stick out. So we met on site and the building changed because there is a very handsome live oak that I just couldn't see staff supporting or the board approving. So he, as the architect, went back, and it has to be connected by a covered walkway. The front building is like where customers would walk in and purchase bushels of oysters, and then the back is where they bring them in by truck and they sort or whatever and package for shipping. So John did, I think, a pretty darn good job trying to meet the requirements of the owner for his operation. And we moved parking to the back, so staff will have to park back there and then walk up to the front. If they park in the front parking area, that would take away from customer parking. Anyway, so we have the 4 trees. This is it blown up a little bit. We notched out the building. I think I'm comfortable with my future said conditions. The 1 tree is really probably more so on the apartment complex. It's a hickory. And then the dashed line, which I'm sorry I didn't have him color differently, is the 25-foot landscape buffer, but you can see it where it says retention pond and then zone X. That's you know, there's a small little strip of developable area. So anyway, maintaining the existing curb cut. They've had some conversations with DRB, the architectural direction and the placement of the building up front, maintaining the required 15-foot landscape buffer on St. Andrews. Here's those trees. So the live oak works with us because the building isn't going to be a 2-story building. It's going to have, you know, maybe greater than 14 feet, but then the branching pattern works. So the live oak is to the right, you have a large sweet gum, and then water oaks. So I blew this up to demonstrate that between the driveway and the cold storage square footage needed for the operation and the split in the parking bays, customer parking versus the retail, we notched the building out. And because it's live oak, I feel confident that we will be successful. So staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 26 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site. Must have a certified arborist approved and tree protected terrain trees to be preserved. Must use 4-foot chain link fences, tree protection barricades. Must design the driveway with minimal impact to the TBZs. A certified arborist is to assist in the developing the driveway detail and tree preservation plan, and must submit a landscape plan for staff review and approval.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that's opposed to this application? Is the applicant present?
Hi, John Sullivan, SR Studio, representing the applicant, is also here, Trey McMillan with Low Country Oyster. So, I think Eric did a good job. As he said, I think there's been quite a few attempts to try to develop this site. And we worked with them, and DRB, we pushed the building as far as we could forward. The front building's 2 stories, the downstairs is small retail, basically come pick up oysters. And then upstairs is their offices, in the back is cold storage where they package and ship. So he has an oyster farm, he trucks them up there. We put the bays for the drop off at the rear of the building so that they drive back to the sea. Moved all the parking we could to the rear. We didn't feel like it made sense to keep the parking in the back and have it walk a couple hundred feet. Well, we notched the building, reduced the size of the cold storage building as small as possible, safe we can. But as I said, it's a narrow site, it's not really buildable with the existing buffers. We're kind of dictated where the driveway can be, so it's definitely a very tight site. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you have any operational questions, Trey can answer those too.
Thank you.
Did you talk to the, I don't know, is that Spanish Oaks there?
Spanish Oaks on one side, yeah, so the apartment building on one side
Yeah.
and condo building on the other, but yeah.
Did you talk to did anyone talk to the adjacent
We haven't,
property owners? They may be out of town. I'm just asking.
yeah, well, the one to the right there, that's all separate condo owners.
Uh-huh,
And then the other one's an apartment building.
Yeah.
But it just would not work, especially when they have parking there to do that. I couldn't see that being a possibility. And even if we did that, we still have the same issues.
I think the plan's well thought out. And keeping the trees is good. So the oyster farming, is this, did I read about this recently? About your oyster farm, I think. And so that's what, down in Edisto, or we're,
Down in Bennett Point. So
Uh-huh.
that's another project we have going as well.
yeah.
Process. This would be the retail outlet.
Mhm. So the trucks are not, they're just the smaller refrigerated trucks. We're talking about
Refrigerated van.
yeah,
Better be.
well, otherwise they're never getting out of there.
We need anything much bigger in there.
I saw a privacy fence on, I think it was on the property line with the trees, right? Probably not on this parcel, right?
The survey kind of shows it off on their property, on the, on the apartment side.
And
Looks like there's
there's
one.
fence on the other side too. It jogs back.
Yeah, it does cross the line, yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's part of a buffer reduction. Did you consider that, Eric, in your recommendations, or?
I did not,
Is it continuous the whole way on both sides?
it is. It looks like it passes we couldn't
Okay.
reach the hickory tree because of the fence, I think, so. must pass by.
I guess in that situation, it could be, you know, if they evaluate the fence and find that it needs replacement, you know, then we ask them.
Repair.
And DRB, for you, this will go to TRC anyway, correct?
Yes, and DRB.
Yeah, so.
Again, I think Eric said it well thought out.
What, was there a trash, location shown on there?
There was, and it's against the
It's the trees.
condo folks. I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong direction.
There it is. Right, no.
All right.
Now, do you have the,
Oh, I see it. I got you.
is there, what's the height of that canopy?
Of the live oak?
Yeah,
So it's in our favor because the branches kind of, the one branch, the lowest branch parallels, going the wrong way, sorry. Kind of parallels the fence line and then it's quite high. And the cold storage is approximately how tall?
12 feet.
So it should tuck. Should not
Fence
have
is
any.
supposed to be 6 feet tall.
okay. What do you think, Calvin? You're up by it over there.
I'm just wondering about the use in that location.
I thought the same thing. That's not really our bailiwick, that.
Right.
But I agree with you with residential on both sides.
Yeah, the only thing you could build without getting the 25-foot buffers would be residential, right?
What's that?
The only thing that could be built there without applying a 25-foot buffer on each side.
So
would be
diverse residential against diverse residential would be compatible. If it were single family, I'd have to look at the chart. I don't have that memorized.
Yeah, the only other thing would be for one of those
So all they
property
could do
owners
is
to
do it
buy that property
multifamily.
to, because there's not much space to do anything in there. Okay, I make a motion, we move to approve with staff recommendations. With the stipulation that if during their, further investigation through TRC, that the fences be replaced if that's needed. They're not in good condition.
Is there a second to Amanda's motion?
Second,
Calvin's got a second. All in favor?
I in favor.
I in favor. Any opposed? It's approved 4-0. Thank you for your time. Right, so our next item is gonna be item B5 1574 Headquarters Plantation Drive. Headquarters Island, the TMS 34608000019, zoned SR1. Request a variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of 1 grand tree. Request a variance from section 54-330 to allow reduced impervious construction setback near the bases of 5 grand trees.
Trip out to Headquarters Island, which is a gated community. Here's the application. This is the site. Note that it's a little deceiving. When I went out there, I thought there was more available land, but the property line between the rear property line and the pond is not it's not, privately held land. It's HOA. Here's zoned SR1. So there's a reason there's not a house on this because it's got 6 grand trees and it's developable. And I think with some changes to the plan, we can make it work, but this is the site plan and I'll blow it up a little bit for you. They gave a couple options on driveway scenarios and staff will comment on that. So you have a 28-inch live oak with the red X little bubble around it. And then a double, actually triple live oak behind the house. Then you have two very nice live oaks in the front yard, equally distant from the street. And then a large one in the front left corner. So how to get a house in there, driveway, utilities is it's going to be tough, but they had an arborist go out, 40-page report. He's, describes a tree preservation plan. I sent that to you. Here's the photo front. So the two trees, and then just off where the blue sign is the other tree on the front left. Then as you can see in the distance, the live oak scheduled for removal. We asked that they stake out the house so you could really understand the impact and the size. So the driveway, in my opinion, is a little too far left. I think they have to put a bow in it. So this connection, the actual physical tie into the street would be a little to the right. My addition. And then as you can see, the driveway, this is like the little turnout. Then you can see the porch is the pink ribbon running toward the live oaks requesting to be removed. And its canopy just does not work in our favor. Even if you were to create a smaller house to get outside that canopy, just the height of that one major codominant leader is not in our favor. And then you got the cluster of live oaks as you see outside. This is the live oak. The consulting arborist places an F on it. I'm not there with an F. I mean, it's got an old breakout that's healed over a little bit, maybe a pruning cut to the top right of that. But something happened to this tree, but there's no cavity up in that saddle, if you will, that I could see. You have a small pine on the right competing up through the canopy. But I would give it a D due to its what's the word I'm looking for? The form. Yes, form. Thank you, Amanda. So, having looked at it and the house and deciphering between conditioned space and deck, I threw this together. I don't think we can save the 28-inch live oak, but the deck could wrap around the rear kind of conditioned appendage. And then the steps can be reconfigured. So the two X's, those proposed deck areas would be eliminated, and you'd pull the deck to the right and then curve the driveway between the 34 and the large cluster, and then shorten up your turnaround a little bit for the tree that's on the property line. So with that said, staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 28 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the site, must use 4-foot chain link fence, must implement the CA's tree preservation plan, must reconfigure the rear porch as per suggested by the city to reduce the encroachment into the PBZ, must shift the driveway to split the difference between the front live oaks as shown, must submit a utility and grading plan for staff review and approval, and then must submit a landscape plan. So when you think about utilities, we had a recent lot that had a house built on it, and as you know, CWS tends to put the Siamese Ys at the property corners and cleanouts, but it costs more money to tap into the linear line across the front of this lot. So be it. It has to happen. We'll have to study how it comes out. Probably have to be a combination of machine and air spade. But pink doesn't work for a driveway, in my opinion. Shifting the gray does, and then grading They'll have to take cues. As you can see, there's 5.5 or 5.35 on the neighboring property to the right. And this dips a little bit. We can't bring in fill. This is going to be an elevated house, obviously, due to flood. But they have to be very careful about how they position the pad for the drive or the garage. So hence the requirement for a detailed grading plan and utility plan. And then probably have to get the arborist engaged in just how everything comes together. But staff is recommending approval with those conditions.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that's opposed to this application? Is the applicant present?
All right, Bill Spitz, Grantham Homes. Yeah, I mean, we totally customized, just designed this home. We've got a few of these approvals before. So, you know, seeing Eric's comments about the porch, I think we're completely fine with that. I think the ARB would agree with that. I don't know, Eric, if we'll build the porch exactly the way you kind of sketched there, but we can accomplish the same goal, which is staying out of that. Looks like that triple right there. And we'll design something back there. You know, headquarters, we just had to tie into a lateral tap. We just did that. It was we paid impact fees, CWS, it was in the grand tree up at the corner. We paid an additional about $7,500 to tie into the lateral and come out and inspect it. So we're familiar with that process. So we'll do that again. It's no problem. And then the driveway, you know, we showed this as impervious. I don't know, we can look at a pervious driveway, but again, find that. So only other thing I throw in is our preservation plan. You know, we've had lots like this where there are, what do we have, 5, 6 grand trees. Pretty rigorous preservation plans on the other 5 trees. So by allowing the one removal on this F tree, we are preserving the other 5, improving them, which I think is important. Benefiting the other trees.
All right, thank you. Anybody else present that wants to speak in favor? The application is closed to the public. So to the board for.
Can you put your recommendations back up, Eric? And the 28-inch tree that's being removed, isn't that the one that almost looked like it had a I thought it looked like it had a cavity next to the
Right there, that one.
yeah, kind of, it sort of looked to me like, is this not cavity here, or is that just shadow?
I think it's just shadow. I don't recall.
Well, regardless.
Yeah. I mean, it whatever, Hugo damage, it's been beat up. I classify it as.
So it hasn't gone to the HOA yet?
The ARB,
ARB, yeah.
yeah, we've submitted, and we've got approvals of the ARB in the past. I don't anticipate any issue there. I mean, they're gonna defer to the city. We have to take this step first. And they know we're saving, they know this lot, the owners in this lot since '93, and they know the lot well, and we're preserving 5 other beautiful trees and improving them. You know, the other thing with ARB is they like when we customize the homes. So we really tried a lot of renditions here. Have a totally custom design on this lot.
Go back to the recommendations. Sorry.
It's okay.
What's the size of the house? What is square footage of the house?
359. And there's a minimum size in the neighborhood. We're not proposing to build a huge home. It's a very standard size home within the community.
I guess the only thing I think that would be worth, I mean, this is still something they could do with the landscape plan, is looking at You know, should there be places where it's a pervious surface? On the drive, especially going along, you know, along that property line where I think there's 26 inches on the left side.
We can get, I mean, we could do all pervious, or we can do a mixture. I'll just submit that. We have no problem doing that. We could do some pervious pavers or a mix, you know. Station mix, gravel.
Did you guys have anything else? I make a motion, we move to approve with staff recommendations.
Second.
All right, motion for approval of staff conditions. All in favor of that motion?
Aye,
in
Any in favor? Any opposed? Approved 4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Our next item is gonna be item B6. It is 01 Windermere Boulevard, South Windermere, TMS 421-0500-188, zoned SR1. Request variance from section 54-327 to allow the removal of one grand tree. Request variance from section 54-330 to allow reduced impervious construction setback near the base of one grand tree.
So this will be modified to strike the variance to remove one grand tree because it's dead. And then we'll deal with the reduction in the impervious construction near the base of one tree. So this is the applicant, owner Ron Hamilton, applicant Ron, his engineer is present. Yes. So this is the request here. Corner lot. And this is a property that went through a very rigorous process to allow a non-conforming use to go non-conforming. Mr. Lee Batchelder verified that it's still vested. So they started the TRC process, but either COVID and then some stormwater unknowns came to be. So it's zoned SR1. And if you're familiar with the area, you can see a couple new construction properties, well, actually just off the page left, but they were legal non-conforming and working with South Windermere in the neighborhood. They allowed these duplex structures to be demolished and built bigger with more units. And the other side's a little different because that had a diverse residential zoning, but if you've driven that, you can tell the new construction. So anyway, you have this structure and it got approved to allow 6 units on the lot with 2 buildings. And you see the red maple in the front. It does have a damaged central leader, but the applicant and the engineer want to kind of preserve it and have it kind of anchor the project. I'll show you the one in the back. So you'll have a driveway off of Windermere and then a one off the side street there. And the green circle in the back is the dead one. I'll show a photo of that. But they have to do underground detention because of the known flooding in the area. And of course, they're drive unders with garage. So here's your existing condition. Note that concrete gray pad just south of the red oak or red maple, excuse me, on the right side of the property there. Shed and everything else, trailer will be removed. So there's the red maple dead. So this is the original configuration. TRC asked for sidewalks along your frontage. So they're providing a sidewalk, but it meanders and it ends up being a little bit too close to the red maple. There was a attempt to try and shift the driveway slightly, which a couple feet. You see the edge there, then you'll see the compared. So here's the red maple photos. Here's the revised, so we move that driveway closer to the existing concrete grade pad. We moved the sidewalk out of the TPZ and added a little connector on the north and on the south side of the drive there. So original, submittal, revised. And then Chris Gerard visited the tree. He talks about the 40-inch maple, which is now the dead one. And then the 32-inch maple, install 4-foot chain link fence, fencing, install curb paver, critical zone, no ingress egress in the fence, no digging, no tunneling. So he's got a little bit of a tree protection preservation plan going there. So there's the, I mean, it's vines and dead rear tree. Staff recommends approval with the condition that 4-foot chain link fence be used. Must implement the CA's preservation plan and probably will request that that be expanded. The palm trees on site are protected. Now that we're going with 6 units, they'll be relocated. There is a live oak out in the right of way, which Parks will address. In the event the tree declines, because there is a dead central leader. This is the 40-inch oak, 32-inch oak here. You can see not very well in that photo, but there is like it broke out either by wind or something. So I don't think it's in total decline. It likes wet feet. This gets a lot of water. So we'll just see. But if it were to decline, staff recommends that you have to plant 1 native canopy tree in the location near the maple and make a contribution to the city street tree program in the form of 5 2.5-inch trees, so 1,475. But the hope is it will make it through the process.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Is there anybody present that's opposed to the application? Opposed?
Ron Hamilton.
No,
I asked if
you're not opposed, you're the owner.
No, I'm definitely not opposed.
The owner's present would like to speak.
Yes, sir, Ron Hamilton. We started this project in 2009. I had gray hair, now I got white hair. But we just keep coming back and doing what staff asked us to do. You know, we're doing small affordable units. Just trying to help with that, so it's gonna be a beautiful project. Eric's been out to the site, so. Thank
Do you
you.
have any issues with the conditions or you're in agreement with that?
I'm in agreement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll close the application to the public. Board.
Well, I think it's admirable that they're trying to work around that maple, but I question it.
Again, it's, they like wet feet. It's got a little bit of surface root. I didn't climb the tree. I don't know if Chris climbed the tree to determine why the one little central leader broke out. But,
No, I'm just thinking lifespan, if it's
Yeah.
40 inches, it's a maple. You don't see very many big maples around here that make it that long.
so the parking, as you see, has a decorative fence and we'll get a landscape to anchor that corner. The condition is,
It's there if it needs to be removed. Give you
Exactly.
the approval, so.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Any questions for the applicant, staff? Is there a motion?
I'm good. I mean, it's a good increase in density. It's a good location for it. Even drainage is bad there, but I know they've been working on that, on the Ackerman. Anyway, I make a motion to approve the staff recommendations.
I'll second.
So all in favor of the motion? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion approved 4-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Some Okay, so our next item is item A7 or B7. West Ashley Circle, West Ashley, the TMS number 30100000470, Zone GP. Requested variance from section 54.327 to allow the removal of 2 grand trees. Request special exception from section 54.327 to allow the removal of 1 grand tree.
So here's the application, owners Whitfield Construction, applicant C Baker Engineering. His letter addressing the variance. I met with Mr. Baker out on site. This went to the Board of Zoning Appeals recently because gathering place zoning requires a minimum of a 2-story building on that street, but unfortunately, Walmart has restricted covenants on the lot because they're in the back, right? They're smart that say, no, only 1 story. So they went to that board and received approval, but so it is here adjacent to Walmart's main access where the light is. And it's wooded. And the power transmission line just passes to the north. This is just a shot looking at that intersection, looking into the site. This is the back side, the parking lot side. So you have 3 grand trees, and you can't do a driveway off of West Ashley Circle. You can't do a driveway off the main access. So your driveways are to the right and to the rear. And the trees are kind of centrally located. From an urban design perspective, DRB wants your buildings to be, the whole concept or intent of the GB was to have a walkable urban feel to the West Ashley Circle. So you place your buildings there and the parking to the rear. And then you look at the trees, 25, 28, and 46. 25 is a poplar, double, triple magnolia, and then a water oak. You look at the poplar, it's actually a triple, but where you measure, there's no air space between those 2 codominant leaders, so it's a double. Probably a stump sprout, as they call it. Here's your triple magnolia, again, weak connection at the base. And then your water oak, one side got topped, the other side has issue. So staff recommends approval with the condition to plant 77 caliber inches of native canopy trees on the project site, must use 4-foot chain link fence as tree protection barricades, and must provide a landscape plan for both TRC and DRB staff review and approval.
All right, Eric, thank you. Is anybody present that's opposed? Is the applicant present?
Yes. Brett Drotsky with C Baker Engineering. Explained pretty well. Shown up here, it's our pre-app, essentially a conceptual design here. Met Eric out on site. Trees are in great shape and 9 great locations. Good building requirements to place them where they need to be.
All right,
Any questions? Yeah.
thank you. We'll close the application to the public. Go to the board for
Well, this is similar to the VAR issues where, the buildings take precedence over the trees, right? We're back at this, it happens all the time, right? Because you could slide that building down and around, but then it would be facing the parking lot. Which obviously is not the thought process. I mean, this plan's been around for
Right.
ever.
Yep.
How much is the site being raised?
Haven't gotten that far, but don't anticipate, so it is a master stormwater plan with Walmart site, so we are tying into a drainage box that is on our site.
Mhm.
I think if you were to study and play around with the idea of contemplating saving the magnolia, I think once you strip everything out, it's exposed to wind and sunlight.
It hasn't been before.
And, you know, it's somewhat protected, as you can see, and then just that weak connection. I just,
The buttresses look all swollen.
yeah. And then that, you know, the poplar, and then of course there's talk about a plaza interconnect, some synergy between the two buildings. They're medical buildings. So I just don't see
Working around those doesn't make lots of sense.
You know, and the thing is, even if that was just far enough for that driveway too, you really can't. You know, if you're gonna, I can't even tell which one it is, because Leverag's so tiny, but. I'd really see a way to work around that one. Yep.
the one in the parking lot is the magnolia.
It's Magnolia.
The red one is the D
Yep.
water oak, and then the one in the building is the poplar.
Any questions? Motion.
I'll make a motion for approval with staff recommendations.
Motion like that for approval. Is there a second to the motion?
I see the planning there. Very good trees.
Well, if it were a park,
Gonna be.
they'd be okay. But this,
I don't think any of them are fantastic trees. The site's gonna.
Well, this is a low area that has a lot of drainage issues. In every tree that comes down.
It's in the Church Creek Basin, is it?
It is.
Okay.
So with stormwater, we have the as-built for the Walmart site, then we'll be able to design into that. As you can, yeah, you can see the basin right below the gas station there. On there.
I was thinking that it broke the other way. It goes underneath Glen McConnell.
that pond, I think, ties into another one that's behind Walmart, and then,
Runs down the railroad tracks.
Yep.
So that pond just discharges to that. It actually does not.
it's not connected.
It's not connected to.
Yeah. So it drains out into that wetland, and there's a little creek, if you will, that crosses or parallels the railroad, and then it's over to Church Creek.
So regarding the plan, again, we were at pre-app and saw from TRC, and that D grade was determined with Eric out in the field. That's part of the table, just note that, but Eric determined it was D, and you can see those buildings were set because we thought we were going to originally save that tree. But like Eric had mentioned, plaza area of some sort between the buildings. You can see the tree. And this.
Well, and if the building could be two-story, then this could be a moot point.
But it can't.
And it's owned by Whitfield, right? They still have the ownership of that.
They do.
There's a motion for approval. By Jeff, is there a second?
Is it possible to make one comment? I know I'm after
No.
everything was.
At this point, unfortunately, no, unless the board,
I'm okay with it, but everybody else.
okay,
Um,
state your name.
Philip Manchester with SL Shaw. We're actually the proposed developer who would be acquiring property from Mr. Whitfield. And besides the single story restriction, there's a, what's being imposed in terms of road frontage. As you alluded to with the we have an 80% frontage requirement for the buildings too. So we're trying to accommodate that. That's sort of why you see the layout of the buildings as they are. And the last requirement, which is a requirement from Walmart, is no building over 7,800 square feet, which is why we split the building into two. Couldn't get site to lay out without splitting those buildings, and still trying to figure out how to accommodate the 80%.
That's a good point. I forgot all about that. The gathering place, has frontage ratio requirements. And
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the red tree is what again?
That's the magnolia.
No, the red
Okay.
tree's the oak. This is the one in the building. That's the poplar. This is the one in the parking,
Yep.
and that's in the future plaza space.
I think the condition of all the placement trees on site. Ultimately, yields a better product.
I'll second.
Motion is for approval with staff conditions by Jeff, second by Amanda. Any other discussion on it? Ready to vote. Say all in favor, say aye in favor.
Aye,
Aye in favor. Those opposed? So it's approved 3-1. Thank you for your time. Opposed. Now we still have item A3 kind of hanging out there.
Yeah,
I say we just,
I'm surprised that
A3 is just a special exception, which is just a fact finding function. Eric presented it.
I have a problem when the applicant doesn't bother to come or to contact.
I'm really surprised because we had dialogue early this week about the new plan after I suggested you shift the building, and they took it to their owner and what have you, and I asked for the new document. So.
They agreed to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were very happy. So I'm surprised. They're a smaller firm. I don't know, things come up, but,
They're in town.
Donato, yeah.
Sidecast.
Chris Donato.
But again, it was reduced to just a special exception. Want to defer, we defer it. Special exception fact finding function.
Can we go back to the graphic error?
Yep. So we can zoom all the way back to.
I mean, usually as a matter of principle, I feel like if the people don't come
Yeah,
or contact with a reasonable explanation, we're all here. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm not voting. The applicant's not.
okay,
Then
I
We'll just
make
vote to
a
defer.
motion, we move, defer.
I'll second.
By Amanda, second by Jeff. All in favor?
I in favor.
I in favor.
Now you want these September meeting to
Yeah, you don't need.
to give us next time again? Did we ever do February?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my next question.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.